You're listening to the Millennial Minute Podcast, giving this generation what they want to hear.
Yo, what's up, guys? You are now listening to another episode of the Millennial Minute Podcast. It has been a very crazy time. 2020 has not been a lot of our years, but we're still here. We took a little bit of time off to get you guys a much more organized and better podcast. So, we're bringing that super hot fire to you as always. And also who's bringing that super hot fire are our sponsors at Productive Culture. Since we've been in this COVID pandemic world, Productive Culture has held us down. They've allowed us to record from the comforts of our own home, staying away from that COVID, staying away from that Rona. And we truly appreciate their partnership. Guys, is there anything else that you want to say for Productive Culture?
Again, as always, these are the folks at Productive Culture have made it possible for us to record our live podcasts from the comfort of our homes during COVID, which is, and then they've been working extra hard for that.
Yep. So shout out to Productive Culture. A round of applause to them. We also got our boys over at 3-Bit Games. Small business have struggled in the COVID run world, but they're now back open. You can see this on their IG. They are back open. So whenever you want to buy, sell, and trade any of your used games, consoles, comics, Funko Pops, if you just want to see T in the store, she will be there. Just head over to 3-Bit Games. They are located at 1600 East Holt Avenue in Pomona. You can follow them on IG at 3-Bit Games. Once again, 3-Bit Games, thank you for sponsoring the pod. Your partnership is greatly appreciated, and we fuck with you. We support you for that. So thank you.
Support Black businesses.
Yes. This is a Black-owned business, guys. So it's time to support Black-owned businesses and put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
Especially now, that GameStop got looted. There's a place to go.
Yeah.
Remember all those times you went to GameStop to sell your games back in your console, and you'd sell them back by 20 games, and they say, okay, $1.25, and you're like, dude, what the fuck, man? Really? I spent like at least $200 on this game. But 3-Bit Games won't do that to you.
They won't do that to you. So shout out to 3-Bit Games. Shout out to Productive Culture. As always, we got the full group in here today. We got our girl T.
What up?
We got our boy in DC. Shout out to Chibs.
What's up?
We got our boy staying in Cali, staying in lockdown with the do-rag. Do-rag Daddy Speaks.
Hey. That's cool.
And we also got our boy all the way from AZ, rocking the All Lives Matter swag. The podcast today.
Oh boy, here we go.
Just kidding. So we got our boy all the way from AZ, Alif Alam. Say what's up to the people, Alif.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Oh God.
Hit the Dougie. So Alif, take us into the topic that we're going to discuss today and run us through it.
Okay, guys. So, to begin with, honestly, ever since the beginning of 2020, like, it seems like every month there seems to be something that happens in the world that brings like humanity to like extinction, and as it progresses,
like Kobe dying, that was almost the end of all of us.
Yeah, it's like Kobe died and the world is starting to fall apart or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like as it progresses, every month it's something even more serious, and as to talk about recent events, it's not just only serious, but it's sad. I'm sure it has a it plays a heavy heart, heavy feelings in our hearts, and I'm talking about what's recently going on in the world and what happened in Minnesota with George.
My bad.
I'm sorry?
No. I said Minneapolis, but yeah, no, you're right.
Yes, Minneapolis. My bad. I'm sorry about that. I was told, yeah, lost track. But yeah, with George Floyd, and I mean, yeah, like what at this point, those police officers were brought to justice, but it does not. I mean, it seems like everybody acknowledges that police brutality is a thing, but it's not just that. It look and everyone. I'm hearing everyone talking about let's have hard discussions, right? And I think it's time to have the hard discussion of the underlying issue of systematic racism in the United States and how. I mean, yeah, great. People acknowledge police brutality, but let's talk about how police brutality is a product of systematic racism.
Well,
So,
we could kind of talk about how
yeah,
or like why all Black Lives Matter before we get.
and I was going to segue into that and how the movement and as all these protests are happening, the movement has been getting a lot of hate because like how liberal and conservative media are like essentially pitted against each other. That's just my personal opinion. It's my personal.
So basically, what this man is trying to say is that we are going to be talking about why Black Lives Matter.
Podcast is
Episode. We will
Okay.
we will touch on police brutality in the second part of this recording. So make sure that you tune in to that second one because that one's going to be hitting extremely hard, extremely relevant, much like this first episode, which is on why Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So T, why don't you get us into the minute?
All right.
So why Black Lives Matter?
All right, we're gonna have 1 minute. We can give our opinion on why Black Lives Matter. Okay, ready? Let's start with Chibs, and then we'll go Rod speaks and Alif. Okay, Chibs, Rod speaks, Alif. Ready? And go. Timer's on.
Black lives matter because my life matters.
I like it.
Black Lives Matter. No, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. It's been enough. I have the math. I have the data. I crunched the numbers. We'll get into that later.
Yes. Black Lives Matter just simply because, A, I'm Black. 2, we're fighting for everybody. It's not just a matter of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter means all lives matter, including Black lives.
Mm-hmm.
Hurry!
Okay, for me, I mean, they're simply human beings. They're just as human as me and anybody else. Like, come on.
Okay. I feel like we shouldn't even, at this point in time, we shouldn't even have to question this. Like, of course they matter. And the fact that some people don't believe that just like blows my freaking mind. Yeah. 3, 2, and 1. That's time.
Yes. Finally, I miss Chip saying burr, 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 burr.
I did too.
It was a little gap missing in my heart. So really quick, for those who are just listening, or for those who maybe just woke up out of a 10-year coma and are like, what the hell is Black Lives Matter? Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter originally started in 2013, so it's like 6 going on 7 years now, by Alicia Garza, Patrice Coulors, I may be butchering that, I'm so sorry, and Opal Demeti. And basically they're an anti-racist advocacy group. Sorry.
It works.
So
words are hard.
Words are very hard for me today. So the movement began in 2013. It's been extremely controversial ever since. A lot of people believe that all lives matter. A lot of people believe blue lives matter. A lot of people believe only certain types of life matter. So I know that all of you guys have something to say on this topic. I kind of wanted to go to Speaks first, because I know Speaks, he just looks ready to go.
He's been ready.
Been ready to go off. So I'm gonna give it over to Speaks. And Speaks, tell the people who may believe that all lives matter or blue lives matter, tell them why Black lives matter, in your opinion.
Guav King.
Okay, starting, let's just go ahead so people can just eat like a, I don't want to put this, an easily digestible number. Let's just say 400 years. Black people have been oppressed. And within that 400 years, we have seen if this is progress over here, this is probably about how far we've seen progress in those 400 years. We are still marginalized. We are still systematically oppressed. We still have to fear for our lives for the people that have been so-called put there to protect us are not there. Like, that's not what we're feeling. Whenever, I think I can speak for everybody that's basically Black here, me, Jibs, Rod, Alif, maybe they will too, especially with how 9/11 greatly affected the viewpoint of America, how America, mainly white people, view your people as well. Tiani, I don't think I really have to say with your ethnic background how you're viewed in our society as well.
My people are in cages right now. Like, this
Yeah,
is
so I don't think I have to really, like, I think we would be here forever if I had to have everybody each give an individual testimony as to why Black Lives Matter. There seems to be this triggering point when people see Black Lives Matter and they immediately think that they are excluded from what Black Lives Matter actually means. People that say all lives matter don't seem to really realize that's exactly what Black Lives Matter is saying. How in the world do you go and make a protest for people that just, we don't want to be seen as better than somebody like you white people have done for the last years and profited off of people of color and, okay.
You can do this.
Go on.
Sorry, it's just so frustrating that people just like, well, all lives matter. And what about the Blue Lives Matter? They went in, they signed up so that way they could protect us. The problem is that they don't protect. And that's what's getting exposed currently. This is why Black Lives Matter started to become a thing. 2013 or 2012. I'm trying to think about when Trayvon Martin happened. I believe it was 2012, February 2012.
Well, I'll give you the exact year.
Yeah, it was 2012.
It was 2012. February 2012, an unarmed black teenager was coming home, had nothing but some Skittles and an Arizona tea. George Zimmerman and was it just George Zimmerman? I can't remember if it was George Zimmerman and somebody else. I think it was George Floyd. Either way, he was chased, found, and killed for no other reason than just the typical color of his skin. That's why the reason why Black Lives Matter started, because eventually people got tired and we were just like, you know what? We need to put an end to this. And I think that's what kind of, we've been making this low progression. And now it's like everybody was caged in because of the quarantine. And now we have this explosion and people are tired. People don't understand how this can be a thing, because a lot of people don't realize that people are still being oppressed. People are still being racially profiled. Sorry, guys, continue. I'll let everybody else.
That's good. I mean, we can jump over to Chibs if you want to tag on. Let us know a little bit as to why you think Black Lives Matter. I know I'm just going to Speaks and then Chibs because in order of darkness, but
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, that's one speaking on this along with T and Alif. But Chibs, give us your take on everything.
Yeah, I pretty much think the big difference between like all lives matter and Black Lives Matter is just that they can't seem to fathom how, like just like Speak said, how we're not representative of them. So they definitely see like we are in two camps. We are the blacks, they are the whites. And they're just kind of like, well, when you say Black Lives Matter, that only means that you're worrying about like your issues. Like, what about us? Doesn't everyone matter? And like, it's so difficult to get to explain, to like get them out of our mindset. It's like, no, when we say that Black Lives Matter, that means that everything that happened to us, everything that we struggle for, everything that we fight for will benefit you as well. But for some reason, it's just very hard for them to like grasp that.
They don't want to grasp it.
Do you think that that's partly because they've never had to experience it?
They don't live in that world. They've never had to experience it. They don't see it for themselves. So to them, it's like, it doesn't exist because I don't go through something like that.
I kind of agree with you. I don't think it's because, or maybe not. It's not all encompassing, but there are some people out there who don't want to understand, who don't want to grasp it. But I think there are also some folks out there who just lived a really privileged life and have not seen it.
Yeah.
But it's not only that. I will say I have seen a couple of All Lives Matter movements, and I promise you, the only time they came up, so it's like their entire legitimacy is like false because they came in as like a counter to the Black Lives Matter movement, you know? So when I'm trying to say like all lives matter, in it, like its whole like essence in it itself is to like disparage Black people. You know, it just kind of like that's their entire movement. And when the only time they pop up is when the Black Lives Matter movement, that's when they decide to like activate and be like, wait a minute, all lives matter. I'm just trying to take like the spotlight away from Black people. And I think it's a part that's part of just like not overt racism, but systematic like subliminal racism, where they just don't understand what they're doing has such a negative impact on like Black lives.
Yeah, that's actually big facts, Chips. I never even thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So everyone there, rewind it back 30 seconds and take notes on what Chips just said. But T, you had something to say really quick.
I was just gonna say,
bam.
I was just gonna say, it reminds me of like this spoiled child that grows up with so much privilege and attention, and the second that you start paying attention to the second child, the spoiled kid that's had all the attention is like, well, what about me? And it's like, it's not about you right now. Like, do you not understand that other people can matter besides you? And it's because it's for a reason. It's not just, it's like Black people are being killed and there's racists. Like, what do you mean? Of course your life matters, but we're not talking about that right now.
It's not even, I don't even want to say like, I think killed doesn't even begin to really quantify exactly what's happening. Murder is the word that needs to be like highlighted, because it's not just killed. Killed, I feel like when you say, oh, somebody got killed, it's like, oh, damn, what happened? But then when you say murdered, it's like it paints a way more vivid image of like, oh no, somebody really went in out of their way to really take this person's life.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but one thing that I do notice with people who disagree with Black Lives Matter, no race, just people who disagree with it, don't know the true history or want to diminish the history that's happened to African Americans for hundreds and hundreds of years. So they'll look at Trayvon Martin and think that Black Lives Matter movement, yes, it was sparked from what happened to Trayvon Martin, but it's not like we're only talking about Black injustice, Trayvon Martin, AD, moving forward.
Yes.
They're not thinking about, and this is a thing with Black history too, like Black history is more than just police brutality and slavery. You're forgetting a whole middle ground where we're talking about segregation and Jim Crow. You're talking about the Alabama church bombings that we learned for a day in history. You know, we're talking about lynchings. We're talking about so many things that it's not just,
Yeah, like, no, I agree.
Go Leaf?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, like for the most part, a lot of people in this country know about history, but ask people who support All Lives Matter or something like that, and ask them about like, okay, do you know what Jim Crow laws are? Do you know anything about the civil rights movement? How long that lasted? Do you know anything about Emmett Till or those four little girls that died in that bombing in Birmingham, Alabama?
Mm-hmm. And you also look at mass incarceration and redlining up until recently, like how these things are still happening. But I kind of want to transition really, really quick just to another important point, because I know you guys are all active on social media. How do you guys feel about the way this movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, along with the protests, are being covered? Because, for example, I might turn on the channel of CNN and they'll be talking about Black Lives Matter and show specific clips of, police beating protesters, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'll turn the channel to Fox News and they're discussing how all lives matter. And then they'll have videos of looters, they'll have videos of like Black people fighting each other in the streets. Like, they're painting two different pictures, and I feel like they're almost trying to politicize Black lives. And you'll see if one black person dies from the police, CNN will cover it, but CNN won't really cover it. But if one person dies, or if one black person dies from the riot, the first argument is always, well, I thought Black Lives Matter. This black guy just died and nobody cares.
Yeah, dude. Like,
what do you guys think about that? I mean, we'll start off with the Leaf and then we'll go into.
It's honestly, it's almost as if like the media, depending what side, what station you're watching, it's almost as if they're like pitted against each other, right? And you kind of said it, like for every video that you see for like looters, or rioting and all that stuff and breaking the small businesses or whatever business, big or small, you can find the same amount of videos for like police officers, like tasing or shooting or like tear gassing peaceful protesters. Like I said, it's almost as if the media is just so polarized and pitted against each other just to fulfill a narrative and just to get folks like us to subscribe to their narrative.
Yeah, Speaks.
They're only there to push one agenda and to follow the blueprint that our current person in power, I'm not going to say the P word for him because he's not, but is just to be divisive. It's just to basically confuse people. If you're getting two polar opposites, what it does is forces you to choose a side. And then that's kind of what racism is in a nutshell. You choose to say, well, I like being ahead. I like having my privilege. And if we have to acknowledge my privilege, then I have to kind of realize what the hell's going on around me. And then, it just kind of pulls you over this way. And then if you're on the other side, like say CNN, and they're like, well, all black lives, this, and this, it kind of forces you to kind of view another side. What we need to do, and what Colin Kaepernick tried to highlight, is we need to have a conversation.
That dude knew.
Huh?
That dude knew years ago, man.
Yeah, we just need to have a conversation. That's what the protests are here to do. And it's not a matter of this. It's not a matter of this or that. It's a matter of trying to basically all come together, realize what's happened. I'm not looking to a white person right now and, having any anger in my heart unless they have shown me otherwise. I'm not saying that I hate a specific kind of person or, anything like that. It's not a matter of that. We need to have a conversation. There's no reason for two news outlets to be on completely different sides. We're all humans. We all live in the same spot.
I do have one thing to add about the media. Like, if you guys have noticed, like the media is like stating all these statistics and all that stuff, right? And it's like if you really think about it, they're just statistics to, fulfill their narrative, or get you to see their way. I mean, statistics are because people will take statistics as facts, but you can spin them
however which way you want.
Yeah, however which way you want.
Mm-hmm. Rod, you want to give an example of how statistics can be skewed?
I can for sure do that. I mean, I'm gonna say that for the next episode on police.
Oh, got you. We'll go ahead. And,
y'all stay tuned for that next episode.
My boy Rod is crunching numbers.
Hot facts.
Yeah. Crunching you, and it's crazy. I told Excel, I was like, and I told my family, I never did math in high school, but I'll do math for racism.
Yeah. Hey, and on top of that,
Albert Einstein, I was just like, carry the 2.
on top of that, just like how we said earlier, just as many videos you can find for people protesting, and rioting and looting, you can find just as many videos of police officers attacking innocent protesters and stuff like that. Just as many statistics you can fulfill for one narrative, you can find just as many statistics to support another narrative.
Yeah. Chibs, what are your thoughts on this? You were actually at the DC protest. We saw a lot of news outlets saying that the DC protests were violent. And we've also seen a lot of media outlets talk about how the DC protests, when Trump had to do that photo op in front of the church, and they were gassing a lot of the peaceful protesters there. Just give us a little bit of insight into how the protests were, how you felt being there, and then also how you feel like the media is covering this, on both sides.
I think I was listening to a podcast and they're saying how like the type of people that view the same like event, like they can see one event, and if you saw it through like Fox News, it was a riot, But then if you saw it through like maybe CNN or like some other news, another news outlet, it'd be a protest, even though it was the same event. They saw it in like two very like, different ways. It just kind of shows a lot about how divisive they can be, or just by ways of framing the same situation. But as for me being in DC, yeah, I mean it's been growing like getting like a lot of steam, like every single day, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it hasn't been violent. I mean, I think that's a pretty false narrative. It's only like if there's any type of aggression, it was a very small percentage, But of course, those are things that get really blown out of proportion, And a lot of the times, like the people that were actually doing the looting, like when the looting was happening, the police weren't even there to like stop them because they were too busy beating up protesters, peaceful protesters, So
that's odd.
yeah, exactly, because like all their focus was like on the big crowds of like Targets were getting looted and CVS were getting broken into and like whatnot.
Yet somehow we don't have enough resources to devote to everything. So rather than stop the people that are actually looting, you much rather stop people that are actually there to protest a social issue. Rather than these companies that you guys like to highlight then on these certain news outlets and say, wow, they're taking all this, businesses aren't going to be able to survive, yada, yada, yada. What's more important is not saving the businesses, but it's saving white privilege, basically. Like, that's more important because that's what they're focusing on that's what they're focusing on. It's right. These protesters are here. They're getting attention either via our news or via Twitter, social media, whatever it is. Because at this point, I know we said certain news outlets. I almost feel as though Twitter seems to be the space where I actually get some of the more accurate news, which says a lot and says I've been pretty vocal about it on social media, but the Earn It Act, have you guys taken a look or even looked it up as far as what it is?
I saw you post something on social media about it. But before we go into the Earn It Act, I know T had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say how I feel like the news that's saying, oh, these are riots, these are, it's crazy. They're really installing fear in people when they don't need to, and they're just giving this really negative attention. Like, I went to one of the protests near where I live, and me and my roommate were dropping off waters and food for people and stuff like that. And as we were leaving, this lady was outside because there's houses where the protests kind of close by, but it's a busy area. They're used to people being on that street. I don't want to say where because
Yeah.
But when she was outside, she was standing in the corner and we were crossing the street and she's like, I don't like this. Did you just come from that? And I was like, yeah, what don't you like about it? And she's like, it's just a bunch of rioters. And I'm like, I don't see anybody rioting. Do you see anyone robbing or doing anything? And she's like, well, no, but I already know that's what it's going to turn into. And I'm like, I don't think so. They're all just peacefully protesting. And she was like, I don't understand why they're doing this. And I'm like, they're voicing their opinion. It's freedom of speech. And she's like, but it's just going to turn, she was so convinced that it was a fucking riot.
Tell the people the nationality.
She was an Asian, older lady.
Twist.
But she was so convinced that it was a riot. She kept saying, and I was like, no, what are you talking about? You can clearly see nobody's rioting.
Generational mentality.
It's hard to hear, Rod. I'm not going to lie.
Wait, hold on. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just a little low.
Right there.
Okay. All right. You guys can hear me now? Good?
Yeah.
A little bit better.
Hear me now? Good.
No, I was saying that the only way that would actually turn into a riot is if you played Nuck If You're Buck or played something like this.
You are so stupid.
It would
the only way that would have turned to a riot if all of a sudden the Lakers just won the championship. All of a sudden.
I would have been the first one with a brick. COVID. So
That's just
what do you?
insane.
So
Like,
what is that, really, really quick. I wanted to kind of get everyone's opinion because I've gotten a lot of messages, texts, DMs from friends that aren't a person of color, almost in a sense apologizing for their whiteness. Not really, but just
no way.
no, not. I'm exaggerating.
No, I know, but just the fact that you got messages, I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
Well, I've gotten a fair share of people that are just like, look, I'm here with you, man. I'm here. I'm an ally. I'm here for you. This is our fight too. You know, if you need anything, people like, and the first few people that actually came to me were actually the white people. Like, those
So
were the first people.
what do you guys tell those people who hit you up and saying that they want to learn more? They want to know how they can be involved. They want to know, how do I become an ally in this fight? Like, what's something that you guys tell them? We can start off with Speaks, since Speaks has gotten.
So what I say is, first off, I thank them because like those people went out of their way to let them know, like, look, I'm not being ignorant. I'm here. I'm posting. I'm doing this. They send me articles. I send them stuff too. I tell them check my Instagram, check my Twitter, because I'll be frequently like posting whatever I can, letting people know, and just making sure that like we don't lose those people, because a lot of times people might just give them just the thanks, man, I appreciate it, and that's it. And that doesn't do anything. You want to kind of make sure people are not just feeling like, oh, I did my part. I sent them a thank you, or I sent them it's okay. We need to all kind of be more proactive. And I think that's what we're starting to learn now, is hearing about things and saying, well, that sucks, is not enough anymore. We need to be calling. I don't think I've called so many people, like so many senators and so many like just people in positions of power, like just to make sure that my voice is heard, make sure that like, this and everything. So I tell them, I give them articles, I give them things to look at, I give, point them in the direction of who to try to call, those types of things. Give them more resources so that way they're not just hearing from me too. They have the opportunity to take that extra step.
Yeah. Tibbs, what about you? Have you received any calls, texts, people wanting to know how they can be allies in this fight?
No, not. I mean, yeah, all my friends are here. All my friends are people of color, for the most part. But to be honest, but actually, just here in DC, there's a decent amount of people who are like pretty active. So of all the people that I've like encountered who aren't like people of color, the rest are pretty knowledgeable and smart. I think that's just because they're like in DC, and DC is pretty liberal and pretty knowledgeable. Because people who come to DC from elsewhere are pretty like politically minded. So I feel like they're already pretty like motivated, and they like already are very knowledgeable of the situation. Like I moved into this new place in DC, and like one of the roommates, she's like part of like this whole like movement in like El Salvador. She's like, you know, but but I'm just to say that like people here is very like aware.
Yeah.
I think that's really good, that it's not just one specific group. This is not a shaming party for white people. We all need to kind of come together. We can't make any progress without Mexican people. We can't make any progress without Black people. We can't make any progress without Asian, Bengali, El Salvador, anything. I'm trying to just make sure I'm trying to encompass everybody.
Yeah.
We all need to be lockstep and arm and making sure that we're progressing to a world where we don't see color, where we're able to acknowledge
Canceled.
everybody, acknowledge everybody's differences, know that that's okay, not feel threatened, not feel anything like that, and just realize we're all human at the end of the day.
Okay. So, T, what about you? I mean, you as a person of color, when all of this went down, I'm sure you felt away. Maybe you weren't getting hit up in terms of, people trying to become your ally, but how did you feel when that happened? like, did you feel like, oh, like I have Black friends, like I need to do something about this, I need to act, or was it just internally like that you were just like, let me learn more?
I think for me, it was obvious that I have to do something. And I mean, you all know I'm not political, especially in the things that I post, because I don't know, I'm always afraid that I'm going to like, well, first of all, sometimes I'm not educated enough to really say something about it or passionate enough about it. So I feel like when this happened, I was just like, it doesn't matter. And I realized that a lot of people, I just have such a problem with it. And I don't know if it's the area that I live in or like what it is, but I lost a lot. Like I lost a good amount of followers just because I was posting. And I don't think I was being super radical. I was just like, I'm with this. I wasn't like, no, F you if you don't like believe in this. Like, and it's just insane to me. I'm like, are people that upset that we want to stop racism? Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
How is racism even a point of arguing anymore?
Exactly. I was just like, this is insane.
Like,
I do feel like for us, when we keep saying like, how can this still be around? How can people still be racist? I still feel like that's like also kind of sort of the problem, because it's almost like we're so shocked about the world that we live in, you know? And like when stuff like this happen, it was wondering like, how can this possibly happen in 2020? It's kind of like, I mean, well, I guess I'm just saying just how like we gotta do more, and yet we also kind of like realize that stuff like that is still out there, and a lot of times we might live in our little bubble. We're all like-minded, so we don't think the world outside will be like that, but it's still strong and it's still going on, and we forget sometimes. And in times like this, when like we realize that it's still strong as ever.
I feel like I'm not saying it out of, no, I get what you're saying and I completely agree, but I don't say it out of like, oh no, my world's perfect. I live in a very, very white populated area, and trust me, I get my fair share of it. Like I have to deal with it not on a daily, but consistently. So I don't say it to be ignorant. I say it out of frustration that I'm really upset that we're still here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that we haven't moved.
Yeah.
So, Alif, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you've been friends with us for 10 plus years, a lot of us. And it just feels like, and not to call you out, not to shame you or anything, but it almost feels like as if last week was the first time that we ever heard questions from you about, race, about police brutality, like, and we're finally having this conversation like 10 years later. So what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts. So I actually came about this epiphany. It's funny that you mentioned that about like me asking questions and all that stuff. And I asked those questions because I came to this realization about myself.
Okay.
Right? About like it's not pertaining to what I'm about to say. It's not really pertaining to Black Lives Matter. So if you guys want to hear it or not?
Look, just we're asking for your opinion, sir.
Well, I mean, Rod was asking about questions I was asking. Well, it's more because of I came out. Maybe some of you guys can understand this because we're all minorities here, but the reason why I was asking all that stuff is because I didn't know how to articulate my feelings in the words.
Okay, continue.
I didn't know how to articulate my feelings in the words because, like, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this, but growing up, I was just used to being the only person in the room that looked like me.
Well, I mean, growing up in Walnut, California, where it's a majority Asian, and I think Chibs and I and like maybe Nina Beasy, shout out to her, we're like the only Black people like in the school. Yeah, I think we both felt that.
But just me, no, just me personally. Like, just me personally, I've always felt like I was always a minority amongst minorities because like I'm the only like how many Bengali people do you know?
I mean, all right.
All right. Look, continue. We asked for his opinion.
So so I so like and obviously I grew up in post 9/11 and having like after 9/11 having people say to you almost every day that Saddam's your uncle or Osama was your dad,
Mm-hmm.
being questioned about whether you love America or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a daily basis, I learned I came to the conclusion of there's no point of me saying anything because there's more of them than there is of me. So I just kept quiet about it and I just internalized it. And on top of that, like growing up, my aunts, uncles, and parents would always tell me to like don't even bother saying anything bad because you risk reprisal or retribution. So finally, as an adult, where I have a platform to speak, and when people ask me to speak of my feelings, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to articulate what I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
because I was just not thinking about what the hell is happening, what happened to George Floyd and the other prior victims before him. But I was thinking about systematic racism because people were asking questions about systematic racism in this
Mm-hmm.
country. And I just didn't know. I had a lot of feeling. I just didn't know how to put it into words, and that's why I was asking you guys, your thoughts and questions.
Quick question. So one of the things that we've kind of just heard, even just with your explanation really quick, is do you feel as though when people think racism, the immediate thought is that it's only pertains to Black people? Because my thing is you talk about how you always felt like a minority in class and things of that nature, and people would ask you about that. You say that what you're describing is the way that I have felt almost every every step of my education.
Yeah, and I think and that's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of us, even though even though we're all different ethnicities and come from different walks of lives, can relate to that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I will say that I feel like at least this speaks to a lot of people who like aren't used to being able to voice their feelings on this matter, just in the fact that everyone, like I said before, this isn't new, but I feel like no matter what we say or do, nothing's really changing. But now is the first time that progress is being made, and it actually seems like change can happen, and people want to do things. People want to get active. People want to be heard. But this is the first time saying like, well, how do I do that?
Well,
This is what everyone's asking, like, what can I do? This is what kind of what goes to like, so what now? Now we have this opportunity. What do we do with it?
Yeah, I feel like now's the time to speak up for sure.
Yeah. I think one thing that was very polarizing with this George Floyd case was with so many of these other cases, there always seemed to be one, I guess, I wouldn't even know, but just one thing about that case that didn't sit right with everybody else. Like with Trayvon Martin, there was no video evidence. We didn't know what happened. So it was easy for people to make an assumption that Trayvon did something and that's why he got killed. When you're talking about what happened with George Floyd, we saw an 8-minute video or not 8-minute video, but it was a short clip of a video of this police officer sitting on this man's neck for 8 minutes. And I think what happened with that is that a lot of people didn't see him resist. They didn't see him steal. They didn't see him do something that in their eyes could change their perception of what they were currently seeing.
I think with that it's funny because you say that people can kind of just fill in those blanks in their mind of like, oh, well, he must have done this must have happened, da 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 da. And the mind kind of fills that in. But I feel as though with the video, it left people asking more questions, even though everything was just laid out to them. Because my thing is like, well, why did they drag him from one side of the street to another, completely away from his car? Why did, Why is there this whole like just dragging him, doing unnecessary things? Why is this man even like, he's already restrained? Why does it take more people? Why are people just sitting around not doing anything? Why is this? There were so many why questions for something, and it forced people to be like, there's nothing else other than race.
Actually, I do have a question for the group. Why do you think this particular moment is different from the rest? Like, why is it so big?
If I can jump into this really quick, I think it's just because of the reason Speaks and I were alluding to earlier. Is just because you saw a video where this man was almost doing nothing. If you looked at Michael Brown, the argument against Michael Brown was that, oh, well, he stole from a store. If he didn't steal from a store, then he wouldn't have died. You know, when you look
like Eric Garner, very similar situation.
Well, Eric Garner's similar situation, but they still said, oh, if he wasn't selling illegal cigarettes, then he would have had no reason to get choked out. So they're always finding something to go back to say, but if he didn't do this, well, if he wasn't doing this, well, if he didn't risk, if he didn't run away, if he didn't. And this was the only time you saw, okay, but he must have been resisting arrest. Oh, well, we found new video footage where he was not resisting arrest. Oh, well, this must have did this. And then something comes out to completely disprove it. And I think that when so many people that watch that video no longer have questions to ask, they're faced with the reality of like, okay, this is just fucked up. This is just, there's nothing that I can do to really explain this. And I think that that's the reason why you see people now saying, okay, this is disgusting. If this happened to any other person, I would be furious. So how do I help? Because that opened their eyes to, okay, now I do remember Tamir Rice. Now I do remember Eric Garner. Now I do remember Trayvon Martin. Like, do these things just happen to Black people like all the time? And I've just like not been paying attention.
I think it's so, I don't want to say perfect, but I think it's just, I don't think you could have wrote a better situation for what Colin Kaepernick was trying to highlight. This man took a knee. This Black man died by somebody taking a knee on his neck. And I think it was just like this perfect like just perfect synchronization of just like, holy shit, this is what everybody has been trying to tell us.
Yeah, what a metaphor.
Yeah, it's literally like, I don't think you could have wrote it any better. Like,
I think everything clicked at the right time.
Everything was just like puzzle pieces. Everything just came in and was just like.
Yeah, I think it's just like not just one thing, but I think it's just like multiple factors
exactly
down to this one moment. And because think about past events that happened recently, like Breonna Taylor.
Peace. Happy belated to her. Shout out Breonna Taylor.
Happy 27th birthday.
Like she like her death was like there's no fucking reason for it, honestly.
No,
it made no sense. But while we're wrapping things up here, for just to kind of wrap this up, you know, we all here do believe that Black Lives Matter, right? I don't think that there was any disagreement on that. Cough, cough, Alif. No, I'm just kidding. But we're all in the boat.
Hey, if you want to take down all lives matter, all you gotta do is just rally together and take a knee and go Wu-Tang Pow.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that Black Lives Matter. What are your guys' tips, just for the listeners out there, for your friends, for your family, on ways that they can get involved other than protesting? Maybe they say, I have sick family at home, COVID's still real, I don't want to protest. What are some quick ways you guys can say to continue to get involved? We can start off with Chibs, then go to T, Alif, and then Speaks. Chibs?
Call your local representative. So there's a lot of people who they're making pre-made like email templates. There's numbers you can call. Call your city councilor, your state representative, your Congress council member, whoever. Make sure that you're letting them know that you're upset.
Yeah. You
know, and there's a lot of like scripts, and like I said, there's also like pre-made emails that you can send out, templates. So that's definitely one way to make sure people up top know and to get that message out to them that you want something to be different. You want to make a change.
Great.
I think that you can sign petitions. Not only that, but I mean, obviously, Corona is still real, so being out there is kind of scary. You can donate supplies, buy some water, buy some granola bars, something that's like dry food, drop it off with the protesters, and then you can leave. But at least you like did something, you know?
Okay, nice. Speaks.
Call your representative. Make sure to you Google so many things in a day, in a week, in a month, in a year. Why don't you just Google Black Lives Matter? Why not Google social injustices? Why not Google how to get in contact with my state representative? People are going to be like, well, I just don't know. Just Google.
Yeah.
Just because we asked right now, I just typed into Google ways to contribute to Black Lives Matter. And there's plenty of news articles there's no excuse nowadays for people to say, well, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Just real quick, sorry. There's also YouTube videos that you can watch constantly that are donating money. So if you don't have money to donate, just sit there, let it play. You don't even have to watch it. Play it on your TV and watch something on your laptop, or do the opposite, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's good, T. Alif?
So you guys make some good points on like how to spread awareness and actions to take. Calling your representative, doing some research, YouTube, donate money. But I'm going to kind of segue a little bit. For those who are, especially minorities who are asking to speak or ask their thoughts, like I understand that for some of you that it's going to be hard to put those really strong feelings into words. I'm not an African American. I'm not a claim that I know what it feels like or what it is. Like I can only empathize. That's the best I can do. But I do know systematic racism. I've kind of had my own experiences, and I think a lot of other people from different walks of life have had their own experiences with systematic racism, and being asked to speak to that after just internalizing that for years, and it was difficult. It really is, and that's why I was seeking answers on my own.
Yeah. So speaking on it can help those just kind of.
Speaking on it does help, but finding words it is difficult. So I just say find a good support group.
Yeah, find a good support group. Talk to some people of color. Ask them about their experiences and learn from it.
Listen.
Listen. Go really quick.
I just mean like listen to them. Don't just jump in and ask. Sorry, not to like cut you off. But I'm gonna basically say just listen to what they have to say. And I promise you, what happened to George Floyd, you could probably, I'm sure all of us have kind of felt like we could have been that at a particular moment in time.
It could have been George Floyd, Trayvon, Breonna Taylor.
Anybody could have been.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off all of yours. I do agree, call your local representatives. I do believe in donating your money. I will say one that you guys didn't, but we mentioned it early in the podcast, is support Black businesses, whether it be Twitch streams, whether it be podcasts like ours, which is an all-minority podcast, clothing brands who are donating to Black-owned communities, and also Black-owned clothing brands, artists, Black artists that you really like, especially Black underground artists who you may have to pay for an album on Bandcamp, but that money really goes a long way. Black artists, Black scientists, Black anything. All
buy a girl weave. A lot of Black females make their own weaves. Buy a girl a wig. Support Black businesses.
We just ended it on an ignorant note.
I gotta go, y'all. I can't.
Send a Black man a nude. Buy a girl a weave. That's how we're gonna end it. Oh my God.
You're doing so well.
Oh, come on, we're the Millennial in it. But
who are we trying to be? Who are we trying to kid right here?
And also, real quick, I was wanting to say, share information. So people are like, I'm going on Twitter, Facebook, IG stories or posts, like it. If you see one you like, share it, retweet, or repost, re-story, whatever it takes. Just make sure that the message there's a lot of information going out right now, like a lot. Like I'm seeing so much information, it's crazy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so make sure we want to disseminate that and spread it as much as we can.
Yeah, and also look up different petitions to sign that may not even align with the George Floyd one, but also different cases of injustice. I think that's very important also. But wrapping it up, Black Lives Matter. If you don't believe that Black Lives Matter, I believe you missed the point, and you should rewind this whole podcast and clean the shit out of your ears to listen to what we're saying, people.
Listen.
And do your own research, do American research. It's not going to be sweet for everybody, but the more we educate ourselves, the more we can continue to move forward. Our kids are going to be like, why the fuck were you guys arguing Black Lives Matter? That's just known. And we're going to be in our canes like, yeah, we tried telling them. So thanks again, everybody, for listening. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. And signing off, that's it for this week. Peace.
Bye.
Support Black Lives.
Black Lives Matter.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to tell your friends, your siblings, your aunt, your dog, whoever about us by listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, or you can watch us on YouTube. Just look up the Millennial Minute Podcast. Whether you love to see it or hate our guts, we still want to hear what you think. So follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. Help these broke millennials move out of our parents' house by donating to our Patreon. Every dollar helps. So check out all the benefits you can get from subscribing, from getting a shout out on the pod, up to being a guest on the show. Just help sponsor the pod. All right, well, we'll see you in a minute.